My family, as Monty mentioned, comes from Costa Rica on my maternal side, paternal side, Honduras. My grandmothers on both sides immigrated to the United States between the 50s and 60s. That time, as we all know historically, was a very interesting and also hard time to be a person of color in the United States, much less a person coming to this country speaking Spanish, not understanding what the hell was happening in civil rights, how and why you need to get involved, and how do you actually make your way through the American dream, which is what they all came here for. As I was approaching becoming a mom almost 17 years ago, one thing that struck me is I was like, damn, I'm about to bring a young male into the world, and I don't know if I have strong models of what malehood and success look like around me. I had my husband at the time, but I wasn't sure how to actually steward the life of a male as a woman. So I went back into my own journey and my own family, and I started trying to figure out how do we make our way in this land, right? The thing that I found actually disturbed the hell out of me. The women who immigrated to this country in my family on both sides, they really were thriving. The males, not so much. They were, in some cases, struggling, and in other cases, striving. But I didn't see that same level of thriving. So it really put me on a path to thinking about this career guidance I was getting in the education field, like, oh, if you really want to sink this, sis, you got to combine your passion with your principles and your profession. So I started working with a team out of MIT to create what is called, you'll see it in there, there's a tool called a personal theory of practice. This is actually a 4-part tool that allows you to come to your own story, the principles that guide your own life, and create the roadmap for where you want to go. It's not just thinking about, like, what am I passionate about? If I asked you to tell me what you're passionate about, somebody tell me one of your passions. Tell me your name.
Victor Perkins. Dance, particularly tap dance.
Okay, Victor Perkins is into tap dance. All right, somebody else? A passion? Photography. Victor Perkins, is dance tap, is that your professional career as well?
Well, I had mentioned an electronic tap board that exposed me to a lot of great artists. So now I'm just trying to promote those artists in an innovative way.
Okay, is photography connected to your profession? Right, so there are many of us sitting in here who have these like outstanding passions. My fun fact is I like extreme sports. So you name it, I've probably done it. Yeah, but that's not, my passions are not really connected to my profession in any way. I would say in this moment, higher education is like an extreme sport with the executive orders and everything happening. For those of you who do not know Tufts University, we have a 32% Jewish population. So when October 7th happened, there was also a calamitous schism, or chasm, I would call it, that actually rocked our campus. And being a woman of color in higher education, that was not easy. To try to still move forward on the things that were important for all students, but also reconcile that some voices were openly silenced and other voices were enabled to thrive, right? So, getting back to this personal theory of practice, can someone open it up and read to me what is a personal theory of practice? Right here.
Right. What is a personal theory of practice? Personal theory of practice describes a process of self-reflection that becomes a tool for a person to deepen their understanding of themselves, their assumptions, but also their vision of the future. POTPs allow a person to increase their level of self-awareness, and by doing so, enable them to see themselves and their impact and a role within different social contexts. Today's session will help individuals reflect on the connections between their values, passions, purpose, leadership style, and approach to power building. Developing a personal theory of practice. Before beginning, you should ask yourself the following questions.
Pause. Thank you so much. That was great. So, what I came to is that the personal theory of practice is an evolving thing. You can actually do it many times in your life. I've come back to it over and over again, because as I've grown as a person, my personal theory of practice has also grown. That's why you've heard me switch careers several times. Cheers to the people who quit the one job, who's moving on to their passion that's more aligned to their purpose, okay? And cheers to us who are steady on the grind in the everyday job, because we got bills to pay, right? So, this is a tool that can be used just to help you interrogate, where am I right now in the world, and where do I want to go? With this tool, and the reason Wansi and I became connected is because he was a student at Tufts, sort of asking me, sort of, Dean McField, how did you get to this particular role in this path and the things that you do? So with conducting my own personal theory of practice, combining it with my personal background, this structural gap that I found in my own family of not seeing the men thrive in a way that I wanted to see, it actually fueled me, once I became a mother, to say, how can I make sure that every part of what I do touches the lives of Black and brown men in a way that helps them thrive? So in education, I focused on young boys and men of color, creating curriculum, taught history and ethics so that they also knew where they came from and could see themselves in the curriculum long before that was actually the thing to do. When I worked in philanthropy, I funded a lot of universal basic income work. I also funded things that helped to end mass incarceration. I worked on economic development and social mobility, so that was a part of my work there. As I moved on to MIT, I focused a lot on wealth generation and asset building from a planning perspective. So I ran a racial justice policy and planning lab, and some of the things that you can recognize from my work, for those of you who hail from the great land of Brooklyn, Interfaith Hospital and many safety net hospitals were gonna be closed down. The work that I did at MIT, we conducted these research studies called participatory action research, went out into the community, found out what people wanted and needed, and wrote the roadmap that actually turned into One Brooklyn, that actually saved those safety net hospitals. And in my own personal life, the way that showed up for me is one of my older brothers was actually killed on the corner of Halsey and Tompkins Avenue. He was hit on his motorcycle at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and that was the only hospital that was open. So, but for my work, he would not have even received the life-saving treatment that kept him alive a little bit longer for me to bring closure to my mom. So that's how my work sort of shows up. That's how my personal theory of practice has guided my work. In my sorority, I work with a program called Empowering Males to Build Opportunity for Developing Independence, also known as Embody. It's the only male-facing program that Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated runs, and I lead that for the New York Alumni chapter, and it's because everything that I touch, I'm very clear that I have a mission to help support and help advance the mission of young Black and brown men and boys of color, right? So that's why I'm here today. I didn't want to insert myself. I was sort of as a fly on the wall in the back. But what I want you to do is find some pair or group of 3, and you're gonna actually open that personal theory of practice up. You're gonna work with each other to begin to answer some of those questions and share those things with the gentlemen that are around you, right? I'm gonna give you a few minutes just to scan what's in there. And start to think about, in your mind, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, how do I begin to answer these questions for myself? Your session after me actually allows you to step into a bit of vulnerability, talking about health as wealth. How do you actually build wellness from this? So we're gonna bridge a little bit of what we're doing here right now, the professional and the personal, to actually move it towards how do you open up a little bit and share a little bit more with someone who may be a stranger to you in the room. All right, so I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna allow you to open the QR code, scan the questions for the personal theory of practice.